Hi folks, my name is Alex from Dbvisit software, and I thought this morning I'd record a quick video just to outline some of the key differences between StandbyMP, which is our disaster recovery product for Microsoft SQL Server, and what you can do with the methods you kind of get out of the box, being basic availability groups and log shipping. So the first thing we should talk about is just simplicity, how incredibly simple it is to set up replication to your standby environment using StandbyMP. If you can see the screen right now, you're looking at our disaster recovery dashboard. So I have an existing configuration here for the first database. In order to configure automated log shipping, all I have to do is click it, select automated standby update, and here I can, with one click, enable or disable this setting and change the interval. So if I just click enable and set, it really is as easy as that. Log shipping will now automatically be set up, and this includes all the file management and maintenance on both primary and standby systems. And that configuration will now always be at that interval or below. So in this case, every 5 minutes. In addition to this, automated replication over to the standby side is a part of the initial standby creation process as well. So for the second configuration here, you can see there isn't yet a standby database. So if I click the prompt to set it up right now, you can see that at the bottom of this page, automated standby update is available to be set up automatically with a single click as part of this process. So if I just hit start, there's now a standby database, and we can see that this one is also synchronized every 5 minutes. That's all it takes. Number 2 is multiple standbys. So with basic availability groups, you are of course limited to only having one standby per primary, and this is not really ideal. Best practice dictates that you should have at least 2 or even more standbys, ideally kept at different intervals from primary. This can be offer a measure of ransomware protection. It also makes it possible for you to offload some tasks over to a standby, such as, for example, reporting queries. Maybe you have a standby that's only updated once a day or so, and you can turn that into standby mode, run some queries, turn it back into restoring mode. So our product fully supports having as many standbys per primary as you like. You can see on the dashboard right now, we've got these 2 databases going from SQL 1 to SQL 2. These are the database hosts I have. So if we go into new configuration, SQL Server, and I'll pick one of these databases, and in this case, I can replicate it to SQL 4. This little warning icon already tells me that it exists on SQL 2, but I can go to SQL 4 just as easily. So all I need to do is grab a key, paste it in, and as easy as that, I've now got this SQL test DB database from SQL 1, replicating to both instances SQL 2 and SQL 4. You can do this just as easily for 2 standbys as for 10 or 100 or as many as you want. Number 3 is easy zero data loss switchover. So using StandbyMP, you can do a zero data loss switchover in a single action. So if I want to do it for example, this first database over here, all I have to do is click it, select Graceful switchover, and it's a one-click start. So behind the scenes, this action will disable automated log shipping between the 2 systems, synchronize the systems if necessary, using either the available log backups or by running an additional differential backup behind the scenes, activate the standby, swap the roles over, and then re-automate log shipping the other way around, all completely autonomously. Click start, see it all happen in real time. The dashboard is always in real time, so you can see the system's update as the task happens. You can always click the task to see in detail what went on, and you can see that previously we were SQL 1 to SQL 2, and now we're the other way around. Now this database has been switched over. Number 4 is automation. A key feature of StandbyMP is the ability to perform actions on across multiple databases and multiple instances at the same time. So for example, if you want to create multiple standby databases, you don't have to go through them individually one by one. You can do all the databases on an instance at once. If I go to new configuration, SQL Server, can select, instead of selecting just one of these databases, I can select both of them. Select the target instance, which is in this case going to be SQL 4. And we're going to create two configurations at once by just clicking the button once. Paste in the key, click the button, and just as easily as that, you're done. You can do this just as easily for 2 databases as for 200, which, if you're running busy instances, can obviously be a boon. We also have a feature called automated configuration creation. What this feature does is, if you turn this on, it will keep an eye on your primary instance, and whenever a new database is detected, it will check if the database already exists on standby. And if it doesn't, the system will create the configuration, create the standby database, automate log shipping, turn on monitoring, all completely autonomously without you having to perform any manual action. Now, if you've got a production team that likes to mess around with the primary instance and add and remove things willy-nilly without telling anyone, as you can imagine, this can be a real boon, because with this activated, you're never caught without a standby. Number 5 is easy monitoring. So we have a feature called the Observer, which is a kind of, you can think of it as a third-party monitoring and notification utility. If you select any configuration and go to the Observer tab, this will allow you to keep an eye on your disaster recovery configuration. Once enabled, the Observer will check the database states on both primary and standby, network connectivity, as well as a bunch of other optional alerts, such as the maximum time gap between systems or the amount of disk space available. And if any of these are exceeded, it will notify you both here in the UI, as well as it can be set up to send emails or hook into Slack webhooks as well, so that you always can have peace of mind that your disaster recovery configuration is performing as expected. Another important thing to talk about is automated failover. Both on basic availability groups or log shipping out of the box, it can be very difficult to configure any kind of automation to fail over to the standby system if something goes wrong. Your only option is a forced activation using availability groups, and that can be tricky to get right. Using Standby MultiPlatform, this couldn't be easier. We go into a configuration and back to that observer feature I just showed earlier. Together with all of the various checks it does, you have the option to actually perform an automatic failover if these checks detect that something went wrong. So here you can configure the status check interval and the maximum number of failed checks before the action is taken. So you could, for example, say, all right, if there is a problem detected with the primary database state, that means that the primary database is not online, I want to check that every 30 seconds. And I'm prepared to accept up to 3 failed checks just in case of network errors or an unpredictable database state during some kind of operations. After which I wish to immediately fail over to the standby location. All I have to do is hit save, and you're good to go. And finally, last but not least, multi-configuration actions. Just like you can create multiple standbys at the same time, you can also manage them at the same time as well. For example, if you want to perform a synchronized failover, a synchronized switchover of multiple databases, which is a very common requirement because, of course, applications typically do use more than one database at a time, you can use the checkboxes on the left-hand side to select as many as you want. Either individually or by clicking the Select All button. And then you have access to the Open Multiple Configuration Actions button on the top right. So in this case, I can select both of the databases between these 2 instances, click Graceful Switchover, see all the status checks, pre-checks, and warnings pertaining to them, and hit Start. And as easily as that, again, you can see everything happening in real time. These 2 configurations have now been switched over simultaneously. You can do this as easily for 2 as for 200. That's about it, folks. I hope that gives you some idea as to some of the advantages that Standby MultiPlatform has over the basic log shipping and basic availability group solutions that you get out of the box with Microsoft SQL Server. We believe that it makes for a better DR product. It makes it easier to implement best practice solutions and keep your data safe. Thanks very much. Talk to you next time.